name's Keir, also known as Keiross on social media. I've lived in Kreuzberg for 10 years and I got to know the Let It Bleed crew about a year ago, and I've been selling my prints there ever since. I have a vernissage coming up and an exhibition at Let It Bleed. The vernissage is on Friday the 28th of October. I'm going to be exhibiting about 20 or 25 of my paintings of Berlin. It's going to be good vibes. I think Let It Bleed is really fucking cool. I discovered it. I had a friend who knew Dave, who was in the shop, and I went to a vernissage about a year or so ago and met the crew, and it's really nice. So I love that it's like independent art and is representing like the true spirit, the true creative spirit of Kreuzberg. So I'm super happy to have my art in the store. I really love painting what's around me. Like, Berlin's a bit of a shithole, so I try and find the beautiful in what may be considered the ugly. I also love the textures and the types of buildings that you get in Berlin, and kind of like this old kind of worn down look, which I kind of relate to personally. So I started drawing about 10 years ago. Obviously I used to draw as a kid, but then I kind of stopped when I discovered drugs and alcohol. But about 10 years ago, when I knocked that on the head, I realized I had a lot of free time on my hands, so I rediscovered drawing. I actually went to the Natural History Museum here in Berlin and I drew the gorilla. And in doing so, it was like my first proper drawing for about 15 years or something. And I had this really profound experience, like it was someone else's hands doing the drawing, and it really felt like I'd come home. So from that point on, I quickly ran out and bought a Moleskine sketchbook, and I filled like 17 Moleskine sketchbooks of like urban sketching and stuff over the last 7 or 8 years. As I get older, creativity has just become more and more important to me. It's a huge pillar of my recovery. It also helps with depression, and it helps me take energy that I could potentially put into something negative and turn it into something positive. In the same way, I'm drawing scenes of Berlin which aren't particularly like pretty, but then trying to find the beautiful in them. So art really helps me with my recovery and my depression. So it varies. Like, I do a lot of urban sketching when I go and sit out on the streets in Kreuzberg, and I could be sitting there for like 4, 5, 6 hours drawing a scene and like in this detail. And I've done urban sketching in like London, Athens, San Francisco, LA, but I have to say, like, Berlin is really where you meet the most interesting, authentic and genuine people. And they're also, yeah, like super curious about your art. In LA, yeah, not so much. You generally meet people who want to tell you that they know a gallery owner or something, but in Berlin you meet loads of different types of people. From like, a lot of like people come out the shadows. Like, if you sit in one place in long enough in Berlin, yeah, and you meet some real characters. Once I was doing some urban sketching in Cotty, and I was sitting there, and a guy came and sat next to me, and he like had this massive like Bowie knife, and so I was like, okay, but I just carried on sketching. And then a few minutes later, I saw another guy who had an even bigger knife, and he like stuck it down the back of his pants. And then like 30 minutes later, 2 women started having a fight, and there was like this crowd kind of cheering them on. At which point I was like, okay, I'm gonna finish this at home and have some ice cream. I do most of my painting in my flat. I got a studio flat. I work from like super high resolution photos, and I really enjoy that because it's like a low pressure environment. I can put some nice tunes on and really like get into the process. In terms of my art over the last 10 years since I've been drawing again, yeah, I filled up all the 17 Moleskine sketchbooks. And also, out of the blue, Adidas contacted me and asked me to do 6 paintings for their flagship store in Kudamm, which was kind of amazing the way it all came around. Like, it was back in February. I was feeling really down, and I was chatting to a friend saying like, I just want something good to happen. And then about a week later, actually I was speaking to Joe at Let It Bleed, and I suggested like maybe he and the shop partner up with like a corporate partner, and I happened to suggest Adidas out of the blue. And then literally 2 days later, they contacted me on Instagram, totally randomly, and asked me if I wanted to paint these 6 paintings for their store in Kudan. So I kind of did. And then as soon as I got off the call, I was like, well, I know exactly the first painting that I want to do of Coty, because they asked for 6 paintings with like Berlin vibes, super authentic, some with people wearing Adidas, some without people. But straight away I was like, yeah, so I'm going to go to Coty, and I knew the exact angle. I painted it a few times, but I knew the exact angle that I wanted to paint. So I jumped on my bike and I got down there and I got to the exact spot to take the reference photos. And then I looked up, and then there was this guy standing there in an Adidas tracksuit, looking gangster and like super Kreuzberg. So I went up to him, explained, oh, this, you know, I've got this job for Adidas. Would you be willing, like, would it be okay if I took a photo? And at first he was a little bit like, who the fuck is this guy? But then he started posing for me. So it was like all these things kind of aligned. And then it was a huge job because my art also takes me a long time to do. Yeah, like a painting takes me, I don't know, between like 60 and 100 hours. But I really wanted to give it my best, to say thank you to the universe for giving me that great opportunity. And those 6 paintings will also be on display at the Vernissage. I think the piece of art that I'm most proud of would be this one of Schlesy. So it's, I live in the Keats, and I love it because it was one of the first kind of acrylic paintings I did, and it's kind of loose, but I think it really sort of captures the essence of Schlesy on a grey, shitty November morning. So there's a lot of feels in there, and actually it does kind of represent the direction that I want to take my art in a little bit more, where I give myself the freedom to be a little bit looser with my strokes and not so tight and rigid. Easier said than done for me, but like that's definitely the direction I want to go in. So it should be a good night, so I'd love to see you there. Come down for the art and stay for the vibes.